Hello and welcome. This is an interesting time in Serbia these past couple of weeks. You might say turbulent, ever since a couple of weeks ago when a disaster in the train station in Novi Sad occurred. This was a newly remodeled train station. The roof leading over the commuter area collapsed. It collapsed during the time when people were in the station, using the station, coming home from work. 15 people were killed. Since that time, there have been protests every day, and the protests are moving beyond Novi Sad. They are getting larger. They are continuous. They are being combined with protests that are ongoing for other causes, for destruction of transport infrastructure in the interest of construction interests and things like this, combined with generalized dissatisfaction with the authoritarian and unaccountable character of the regime that is ruling them. And in response to this, we have seen panicked responses on the part of the regime. Both claims that they're being intimidated by protests and will not stand down, as well as calls that the protesters are out for, they say, blood, meat and blood. This is the term that the president of Serbia, Alexander Vucic, used to finally resignations and eventually arrests of people who thought looked useful to be used as fall guys for the incident. But these things are not going to stop the protests and are not going to calm the dissatisfaction that is at the heart of the protests. And I think that's because the character of the protest and the motivation of the protest goes down to the nature of the ruling regime. And this is a ruling regime that depends on clientelistic networks of cooperation, what in social science we would call a neo-patrimonial system. So you have this ruling party which wins every election by very large margins. How does it win the elections? At the local level, it has relationships with employers, not just public employers, but also private employers who depend on the state and on friendly relations with the people in power in the state to receive public contracts for construction. These are contracts that can be very, very lucrative. In return for this and maintaining this relationship, these companies maintain boards of directors who are friendly to the party in power. They make a condition of employment, loyalty to the party in power. People are expected to join. They are expected to persuade their family, friends, neighbors to join, to get pledges to support the party from certain numbers of people at election time and so on. So state business is combined with calls for party support, maintaining this network of um, public support that makes it appear as though the party is popular, and the state then and the party in power in the state return the favor a bit to the companies that are benefiting by providing flexible regulation. So that, for example, this roof that fell and killed 15 passengers in Novi Sad had not been submitted for proper inspection. It had not been approved. So there's clear collusion between the irresponsible contractors who built this defective roof and the irresponsible regulators who are maintaining support for their political party through the means of these private companies. This is something that happens all around the world, especially with very large construction projects. There's kind of this parallel system of public contracts, which legally are supposed to be put up for competitive bidding for a tender. Realistically, in any state, there are only about 3 or 4 countries that have the capacity to do very large public construction works. And to prepare a bid, this requires technical work. It is time consuming. It is expensive. It is expense that is wasted if the company does not get a bid. So what do? They agree beforehand. They say this company will get this bid, this company will get the next bid. The other ones will only put up a gesture toward making a bid, or won't compete at all. That is to say that they make a contract, but it's an illegal contract, so it cannot be enforced through laws or by courts or through justice. So who enforces the contracts to ensure compliance? In many states, it is the mafia. This is a system that was explained elegantly by Diego Gambetta in his study on the Sicilian mafia, and in other states, it is the political party in power that provides this parallel regulation outside of the legal system. And I think that this is the reason why this protests and the dissatisfaction do not end with repression of the protests, with arrests of a few people to be put forward as symbolic sacrifices to this. I mean, first of all, because arresting a few people does not change the character of the system. The character of the system is throughout the system. It has to do with the relationship between the most powerful political organizations and the most powerful economic organizations. Second, we are seeing similar instances of the possibility of this happening in other places. Just today, there is an item in the news suggesting that the roof of the sports arena that was built in Novi Belgrade for big basketball and other tournaments maybe maybe defected. We're seeing this further through the advancement of things that have been promoted, these kind of sweetheart development deals that include things like the large residential development along the Sava River in Belgrade that they call the Belgrade waterfront, potentially these luxury hotels that are meant to be built by a company headed by a family member of the president-elect of the United States, Donald Trump. So this goes to the very character of the system of rule and the way that political parties maintain themselves in power. And what we're seeing is that the way that they're maintaining themselves in power because they undermine safety and security are threatening the lives of citizens. You also see an interesting contrast here. You know, the site where Donald Trump's son-in-law is supposed to build this hotel was a military headquarters that was built as kind of this massive modernist project by the architect Nikola Dobrovich in the 1960s. And it was bombed during the NATO bombing campaign in 1999 extensively to the degree that the building was not usable, but the building was not destroyed. Similarly, with the Hotel Yugoslavia, that they're beginning to destroy using artificial means for the service of a private developer, this is having to be put down with great energy, with explosives and so on. It isn't just coming down because when Serbia was a part of a functioning state, Yugoslavia built objects that last. What has national chauvinism built? It's built arenas with bad roofs. It's built train stations that fall on the passengers. People recognize this and they're angry. Thank you for your time and attention, and we'll talk to you again soon.